This recording is of the Blandford Resilient Master Plan Visioning Session held on February 4th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Please note this recording does not include the breakout rooms held approximately 1 hour into the meeting.
All right, are we ready? It's 6 o'clock and good evening. I'm Mary Cronholm, and Joanne Martin and I welcome you to our first vision session or focus group for looking at how you want your town and community to evolve across all possible areas: open space, residential, business, etc. What we hope to accomplish with these sessions is to garner enough information, agreement, and support to realize our collective vision for Blandford. Alexis Lanzanata from the community planning area of Barrett Planning Group is our host and will lead us through the evening with Fiona Coughlin. Tom Ackley may join us. I believe the selectmen are at the official swearing in ceremony of our new police chief. And perhaps they may say something later on. Now, I'd like to ask Peter Langmore to give us a fiber optic commercial, and then Alexis can take the reins. Thank you, and welcome again.
Thank you, Mary. Very briefly, I don't know how many people in Blandford are on that have not signed up for the internet. If you have not, please do so now. We're at 70%. Like to get this as high as possible. The first houses will be probably operational in sometime in April. That would be in North Blandford Road, North Street, Chester Road, and next will come the middle of town, Route 23. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call me. Go on the website, sign up, tell your friends, neighbors. Thank you very much. Mary?
So,
Somebody call-
sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so Ken and Catherine, would you like to introduce PVPC?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Ken Comia, and I'm a senior planner in the Land Use and Environment section at Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. We're the lead consultant on the Resilient Master Plan that we are doing with the community. And Catherine Ratte is a co-project manager, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for taking the time to be here tonight. I know it's a big commitment, and we really, really appreciate your time. This is going to be a very exciting 2-hour vision workshop, and we're really grateful that you're here. As Ken said, I'm manage the environment and land use, co-manage the environment and land use section at the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and we are very excited to be working with you all on this resilient master plan. And I'll turn it back to Alexis.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for being here. So we are going to start with a bit of an overview of what a master plan is, why we're here, and talk about why visioning is so important, why public engagement in this part of the plan is so important, so that we can shape a vision statement and goals that really align with what the residents of Blandford would like to see. So we will be engaging in some small group discussions about the town strengths and areas for improvement as well. And from that, we will begin to have the framework for the master plan committee to start their work on drafting a vision statement. So we won't leave this meeting tonight with a vision statement, but we will, the meeting will end with the consultants and the master plan committee having an understanding of the kinds of things that the people of Blandford would like to see in their vision for this plan. So,
Alexis?
Yes.
But sorry, it's John Piper. I just wanted to announce I was on.
Oh, okay. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Blandford. Yep, Blandford resident.
Okay, welcome. Yes, we see people are I'm so glad to see more people trickling in as the meeting goes. This is great. Awesome. So we expect that this will probably go until 8 p.m. And we will, at the end of the meeting, we'll make sure that everybody leaves with clear contact information about who they can go to with further questions and other resources for you to refer to going forward.
Will, this is Lori Boken. Will
Hi.
people that don't get to watch the whole thing or can't be here tonight be able to view it on YouTube at a later time?
That is a good question. And it is being recorded, and it will be later put on the master plan website for people to be able to watch. And we will be sharing that link later in the presentation. So yes, people will be able to watch it if they are not, if they're not with us tonight. Thank you for asking.
Okay, because I'm via phone. I can't see anything, but it is what
Oh,
it is.
Okay. Okay. Yes, you will get to watch the a video of the presentation, and we'll make sure that the presentation itself is also saved in a manner that can be posted online for people to view.
Oh, super. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. So on this screen here, you see just some of the wonderful people who will be working on this from PVPC. And so the project managers, as Ken and Catherine introduced themselves, they're part of the Regional Planning Commission, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and Fiona Coughlin and I from Barrett Planning Group, we are kind of leading the public engagement piece of the plan. PVPC's content specialists, you can see their names listed below. They are the ones who will be kind of continuing their research on each element of the master plan and drafting chapters that cover the topics that we'll be going over this evening. So you are in good hands with PVPC. And then here you have the committee members from the Resilient Master Plan Committee members. You can see you have quite a large committee, which is wonderful because you will have a lot of input from residents who cover a wide variety of representation in the town. So you can see here the names and affiliations of all the members of your master plan committee. So we thank you, all of you, for being here and being a part of this. So for the agenda for this evening, we already went over introductions, and we're going to be, for the main part of this presentation, educating you on what is a master plan, because this is Blandford's first, and also looking at what other planning efforts have already been done in Blandford, and looking at kind of the goals that came from those recent planning efforts, and kind of seeing where you think if those goals are applicable or should be applicable to the master plan. So we'll be doing some polling activities, giving you a little takeaway as to why visioning is important and why we need you here tonight to help us come up with the themes for a vision for this plan. And we have some fun facts to share you that members of the committee shared with us, and we wanted to make sure that all of you who are here tonight were aware of some of the interesting facts about your town. Now, for the discussions, yes, did I hear a? Oh, sorry, I thought I heard someone speak. For the discussion portion of the meeting, I think we will look to see how many members of the public we have at that time. Our plan is to break into smaller groups, which I think we'll still do given the attendance I see at this time. But we'll be discussing strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as perceived by you, the people of Blandford. And then kind of doing a recap of that as we get to the end of our time during this meeting. And as I said earlier, as we end, we'll make sure that you know what's next in this process and how to stay engaged throughout the process. So that'll take us to the 2-hour mark. So I do want to direct your attention to a couple of things here. One, if you're unfamiliar with Zoom, you do have an option at the bottom of the screen, or it might be at the top, depending on how you have your Zoom set up. But there is a chat option. And if you don't see it, then there is you can see 3 dots on your screen that say more. And it may be under there depending on your menu, but chat is an option there. And you can use that, that feature to ask any questions that you may have as I'm talking, or just any input you may have. And my my team, Fiona and Tyler, will kind of be monitoring that chat. And at certain times, I'll pause and say, okay, do we have any questions in the chat? So that feature is there. Again, if you go to the more, where the 3 dots are on your Zoom menu, you should see that. Okay. So, oh, Catherine, thank you. I already see Catherine went in the chat and said to please feel free to post questions and comments in the chat. So that is wonderful. Thank you. Okay, great. All right. So what is a master plan? Well, there is a legal framework for a master plan under Massachusetts general law. And what this outlines is the components that are in a master plan. So on the next slide, I'll be talking to you about what your master plan is and what will be included in it. But basically, it's a blueprint for the future of your town. And so it describes a long-term vision and how to achieve it. It's going to guide zoning changes, capital improvement budgeting, general decision-making and policy implementation. And generally speaking, it covers a time frame of 10 to 20 years. So one thing we just want to make sure that you're aware of, because we know this is Blandford's first master plan, it's not a zoning bylaw, it's not a subdivision regulation, a capital improvement program, or any other sort of regulatory document in that way, but it may provide recommendations that Blandford will then take for such efforts. So that's what a master plan is. The elements of a master plan, as I mentioned, there is a legal framework that explains what a master plan is and what will be included in it. And ultimately, the plan is approved by the municipality's planning board. But so these are the elements of a master plan, and it gets designed in different ways. Some communities will have a chapter for each of these, but that's not always how it's done. And in fact, in your final product, all of these topics will be covered, but the overall outline of the plan may not follow this exactly. But so one of the required elements, the first one is the plan goals. And that is part of why we have you lovely people with us this evening, because the goals are going to stem from the community vision. And so there's generally, often at the outset of a plan, but then it gets tied into all of the other elements. There are goals that are laid out. What are the community's goals looking forward 10 to 20 years with relation to each of these topics? So this part of the plan identifies the goals and policies of the town for future growth and development. Then there's also a land use element. And again, it may or may not be a separate chapter, but the topic gets covered throughout the plan. And what this does is it identifies present land use patterns. It designates proposed future distribution and location of public and private land uses. So it basically is what is going on with your land at this time, how it's being used, and what kind of future uses can be done, what potential is there. There's also a housing element that will get covered in some capacity in the plan. And it identifies and analyzes kind of the existing needs in Blandford, and then it also looks at forecasted housing needs. And from there will be goals tied to this element as well. There's economic development as a theme that gets covered, and it identifies policies, strategies for the expansion or stabilization of your local economic base and the promotion of employment opportunities. So those are the first 4. I'm going to move to the bottom row. There's natural and cultural resources element, and that is going to provide an inventory of your significant historic resources within the community and policies and strategies that relate to those resources. Natural resources, open space, recreation. This usually is going to provide an inventory of your existing resources in these areas. And again, policies and strategies for the future management of these resources. Transportation, some plans refer to it as circulation, but it provides just this general inventory of what is the current state and what proposed changes might Blandford make to improve. And services and facilities. This looks at the services offered by the town for its residents. For example, the internet that was brought up at the beginning of this meeting, that would be an example of a public service provided by the municipality. And then facilities are your buildings, your roads, things of that nature, kind of the physical things of the town that enable the town to deliver its services. So each of these elements, they kind of start with a look at what currently exists, what forecasted needs do we see in the future, and what goals, how will our goals be shaped around those. Lastly, the implementation portion of the plan, it lays out specific actions that the town can take in order to fulfill those goals, in order to fulfill the overall vision for the community. So the implementation plan also will lay out kind of who is responsible for each of those actions, and what the time frame is. So it's really just this wonderful way of organizing everything that that needs to happen in order for the goals and strategies outlined in the plan to happen. So kind of organizes everything, so that the community going forward has really a map to guide them that isn't as without an implementation plan, a master plan would be somewhat vague and risks kind of just sitting there and not being used. So an implementation plan that clearly can guide the town ensures that that won't happen. So the process of developing a master plan, we're in this right now. Your consultants with PVPC, they will review existing conditions, identifying issues and challenges and needs of the community. So that's kind of the start of the process, and that kind of runs parallel to what we're doing now, which is distilling public input. And we get this input from things such as surveys, which I know the town is currently conducting a survey as part of this process, this visioning session, the committee meetings that the master plan committee is having, and just other efforts to gain input from the public. Those first two things that you see in the process, like I said, they kind of run alongside each other, but that public input really kind of goes throughout the plan ideally. And then the consultant team and the committee discusses strategies that will enable the town to achieve the goals that get worked out through this process. And then the implementation. So that's the overall process of developing the plan, the framework, kind of the order that things will go forward in. So just some reminders, this plan is a policy guidance document. It's not a law. The town's legislative and executive bodies will implement the plan's recommendations, and boards and commissions use this plan to guide decision-making going forward. So that is the basic takeaway of what a master plan is, and how Blandford can benefit from having one. So while this is Blandford's first master plan, you do have other planning documents that we've kind of looked at to see what's already been kind of determined as a goal. And we wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on some of these existing identified needs. So what's already been done? Okay, so a lot has been done for a relatively small town. In 2003, you finalized a community development plan. So we have a goal from that we'll be sharing and seeing what your thoughts are on that goal. 2004, an open space and recreation plan. In 2012, there was a housing needs and assessment plan conducted. More recently, 2016, a hazard mitigation plan was developed. 2019, there was a vulnerability preparedness and resiliency building workshop. And then currently, the town is working to update its open space and recreation plan. However, as I mentioned, Blandford has never had a complete master plan as a document to kind of guide all of this. So a lot of times in a community, all of these various plans that kind of get developed focusing on a specific area, a master plan is like a kind of like a zoomed out way of looking at the sorts of things that, as an example, a housing needs and assessment plan would look at in a more detailed way. So what we're going to do now, we're going to conduct some polls. We picked, I believe it's 4 goals from some of these plans, and we just wanted to ask you, the attendees of this meeting, what your thoughts were on if you think that this goal or a similar goal should be in this resilient master plan that the town is developing. So what will happen is when I launch the poll, you'll see a question. And for those of you who are with us on the phone, we'll make sure that when we share the results, we'll tell you the results of the poll. But you'll see a question pop up and you can reply to it. And then when everyone is done, I will share the results. So from the 2006.
Hey, Alexa?
Sure, yes, hi.
Sorry.
It's okay.
This is John Piper. So I have a copy, and it's called Blandford Community Development Plan. Is that different than a master plan? Because I was under the impression that's what it is. There's a lot of stuff in it talking about particularly what you just were talking about.
I can talk about that. This is Catherine. Back in 2002 to 2003, the Commonwealth funded these community development plans for all of the communities. And so we did work on that community development plan, but they only touched on 4 areas: transportation, land use, open space, and economic development. So it wasn't as comprehensive as a master plan, but yeah, thank you very much for bringing that up.
Okay.
So from the 2016 Hazard Mitigation Plan, there was a goal to create low-cost and preventative mitigation measures against natural hazards that are likely to increase in intensity as the effects of climate change grow. So this was a goal from the town's 2016 Hazard Mitigation Plan. And when the poll launches, you'll see that published. And you can select yes, no, or unsure. So I'm going to launch this first poll. And you should see on your screen now this goal from the 2016 Hazard Mitigation Plan. And I am seeing results as they come in. And when I end it, you'll be able to see the results. So do you agree that this plan, this master plan for 2030, Resilient Master Plan, should have a goal relating to creating low-cost preventative mitigation measures against natural hazards that are likely to increase in intensity as the effects of climate change grow?
Do we just answer it in the chat box? Is that where?
So, okay. So there, you should see a poll on your screen. If you're on via a device where you can view this
I see the
presentation.
poll. I just don't see anything, any options I can select.
Oh.
That's because you're a host, Josh. So it's only going to the hosts.
Okay.
So Alexa, John Piper again. So
yes,
being
hi.
on, I also just have a phone. I don't have a computer.
Oh, okay.
So if you're on the phone, you can't participate in this.
Yes.
Is what I'm getting.
Yes.
But only this poll. We're going to have a breakout. We're going to have an interactive time for you to just be able to talk. You don't have to be on the poll.
Right. The polls are just for a quick snapshot. And I will make sure that I verbalize so that you and others on the call can hear what the results are. So I think probably everyone who's going to vote has.
Mary has asked for an example of a low-cost and preventative mitigation measure against natural hazards. She would like just an example before she answers.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for your question. That's a very good question. An example that we have seen in other communities is installing green infrastructure in, maybe a municipal golf course, or maybe converting lighting, in your town hall to be LED lights or similar measures. A common trend that we have seen is typically converting energy use within public facilities. That is very, very common. That's just one of the many examples that have been used in the past.
How does that relate to climate change effect, though?
So I don't know if any of our team at PVPC also, if you want to speak to that, that might be
the,
beneficial.
Yes, this is Catherine again. And thanks again, Mary, for the question. Part of this funding that's actually funding the master plan is the Commonwealth's Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Initiative. And this is the town has secured an action grant. And one of the mitigation measures that Fiona was talking about, green infrastructure. So we actually have another consultant working with the town to look at the zoning, the land use regulations, and to make sure that the land use regulations are in sync with the likely effects of climate change. So increased severe and unpredictable precipitation, for example. So looking at your local regulations and amending them. So that would be a relatively low cost and preventive mitigation measure if you change the regulations based on the awareness of increased rainfall.
Okay, so we're not looking at, do we need a dam put on Borden Brook, for instance?
Just for this, for the low cost, no, that wouldn't fall under that
Okay.
category. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so, sorry, give me just a moment. So I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results. So of those who responded, 10 said yes and 1 said no. And not everyone replied, and that's fine. But I did want to just verbalize that for those of you who are on the phone and can't see the poll results. Certainly feel free if you are unsure or if you said no, it would definitely be helpful to hear kind of what your thoughts are. So feel free to use the chat for that. But I'm going to end that, and I'm going to move to the next one from another one of the recent planning efforts, 2012 Housing Needs and Assessment Plan. So there's a goal in that plan to make Blandford a more inclusive and viable location to live while retaining the rural quality of the town. So should this goal or a similar goal be in the 2030 Resilient Master Plan? All right, so I'm going to launch that. Oops, I apologize. I'm going to launch that poll for you. The second part got cut off. So again, the goal is to make Blandford a more inclusive and viable location to live while retaining the rural quality of the town. And I know it's a little tricky sometimes, to Mary's question on the previous one, to really formulate an answer without seeing specific action. So the general framework of a master plan, you have your vision, which is kind of the overarching, and then from there, your goals, but then it gets into the specific actions that can allow the town to fulfill that goal. So sometimes it's hard to say, do I agree with that goal or not, without seeing specific examples. But so the goal is more, I don't want to say generic, but it's more of an overarching guidance that then lends itself to specific actions. So again, I've 8 people have voted so far. I'll leave it for maybe 30 more seconds.
Oh, no.
Should the master plan have a goal relating to making Blandford a more inclusive and viable location to live while retaining its rural quality? 11 people have voted so far. Again, feel free to use the chat as an option for sharing more specific thoughts or questions about this. All right. So I'm going to end the poll. This one is not as clear cut as the first one. So this will likely be a talking point for the master plan committee moving forward. So the results of this one, 6 respondents said yes, that's 46%. 2 of the respondents, or 15%, said no, and 38%, or 5, said they were unsure. So there was certainly less certainty on this one than on the first one. Again, feel free to share some thoughts in the chat, but that shows that these are not all clear cut, right? All right. So from the 2004, we're kind of walking back a little, open space and recreation plan. There was a goal to preserve and protect watersheds, establish scenic roads, and continue communication with Springfield Water and Sewer. So looking forward, should these action items or similar, not word for word, be in the 2030 Resilient Master Plan? And I will launch that poll. And as you're thinking through this, I'll say that often when we're doing this part of a master plan, developing vision and goals, we often look at the goals from the prior master plan and we ask residents, is this goal still relevant? Given that we're not looking to a past master plan, we borrowed from your other plans to look at those goals, because ideally a master plan will integrate other planning efforts within a community.
We're not mentioning conservation properties in there.
Okay. So I will say that, identifying a past goal from one of Blandford's existing plans, understanding that these plans had other goals, going through the takeaways of each plan would probably, that would be more than could happen in one evening, but certainly hop on over to the chat as well. That is helpful feedback.
Hey, Mary, these were goals that were identified in previous plans. And to your point there, as we proceed forward as a committee, this would be the time to make those adjustments, right? Like that was brought up in 2004.
Right.
Here we are now in what year are we in now? 2021. How can we,
make them more relevant?
Yeah, more relevant to today.
Yep.
It's
exactly.
a little call about Blandford Town Council or something. So I decided I'd listen.
Oh, great. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute.
Oh, that's fine. So I am going to end that poll and share the results again. 11 responded. So this one, a little more definitive. And so 8 or 73% said yes. 3 or 27% said they were unsure. So no no's on this one.
Alexis, I just want to interject quickly with a great question for those on the phone who can't see the chat. Somebody had asked, is this establishing, does this mean creating new roads? And what we responded was no, establishing a scenic road would be designating an existing road as scenic and not, creating a new road necessarily. So I just wanted to bring that up because that's a good question and good information for folks to have.
If you establish a road as a scenic road, what does it do to the road?
That is an excellent, sorry, go ahead. I heard a voice.
So I can answer that question. The Scenic Roads Act protects trees and stone walls and similar features along a designated street. If someone wants to remove a tree or disturb a stone wall, there has to be a hearing before the planning board before that disturbance can take place.
Even if it's off the public way?
No, it would only be within the right of way.
Within the right of way. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. And our, I believe the last example of a goal that we pulled was from your 2003 community development plan. And as a participant noted earlier, this was a very thorough plan, although it is of course dated now. So looking at a goal from this plan to create a mixed use development bylaw, or try again on that, prepare an affordable housing zoning bylaw, and promote Blandford for vacations, retirement, and recreation. So that was a goal from that 2003 community development plan. And, this might be hard to vote on because it has several things kind of embedded into one goal, and you may feel strongly about one, but not another. So we understand that. Again, that's where the chat is a great place to kind of share some thoughts as to how we could either maybe separate that or make it more relevant to 2021. So I will launch this poll. So should a goal relating to creating a mixed-use development bylaw, prepare an affordable housing zoning bylaw, and promote Blandford for vacations, retirement, and recreation, should this 2021 2030 Resilient Master Plan have a goal relating to that or an element of that? And I see the chat. I'm seeing a lot of updates to it. I can't read them from my current screen, but I assume that indicates this is generating some more questions. All right, so I'll wait until we get to the minute mark on this one. All right. So this one kind of similar to the second question we asked. This one was a bit more divisive. This one I think had the most no's. And I am curious, so feel free to share your thoughts in the chat if some of those no's may be tied into an element of this goal because it kind of was a bit more, I mean, you may feel that a mixed use development bylaw is great, but an affordable housing bylaw, maybe you don't. So, if there's bits of that goal that you think would be relevant to 2021, and not just 2021, of course, but moving forward. So for those of you who are on the phone and unable to view, I will tell you that 45% of the respondents said yes, there should be a goal like that. 36% said no, there should not, and 18% were unsure. All right. Okay. So your responses to that certainly will be helpful to the committee moving forward and to the consultants moving forward and helping us work together to develop a sense of what goals or what elements of prior goals in the community might be useful or not useful for this plan moving forward. So thank you. Fiona or Tyler, or is there anything in the chat that we should address before we move on to the next portion of the presentation?
Just a point was made that during the last poll there, the question should probably be split into two, just because there is a lot there, and that's a really valid point, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of really great feedback in the chat thus far. So thank you everybody again for participating and continuing the dialogue in the chat.
Yes, yes. I look forward to reading it. So answering those questions and hearing about what a master plan is, you might still be wondering, okay, well, why am I here tonight? Why is visioning important? So the visioning process of the plan, it really it sets the tone for the entire plan and the goals going forward, and then therefore the actions going forward that will come from that. So it ties together what has been done, what needs to be done going forward. It is an opportunity for community participation. It provides feedback for a long-term vision for Blandford. It's a cohesive statement crafted by you, the people of Blandford. And a successful visioning session results in a shared sense of purpose. Feedback from this, it influences the plan's goals, the implementation strategies that will make the vision a reality. So again, if you think of that vision as the umbrella, the goals that come from that, and then the actions and the implementation are under that umbrella that gets established through this community vision. It helps meet Blandford's specific needs and values today. What worked in the past may not work now, and some of those goals that was made clear. Some of the things that maybe were relevant or desired in 2003, 2004, maybe not now. And it's another thing important to note is that this vision gets crafted throughout the process. So we take all of the feedback from tonight and other avenues of public feedback, and the vision statement starts to get crafted through the committee. And sometimes we've seen this in communities we've worked in, it gets updated as the process goes on. So it's certainly not something that will be finalized this evening, but the process of beginning to understand what elements should be in a community vision, that does get started. Before we move on to the discussion, because some of these facts might shape your thoughts going forward as we discuss the strengths and opportunities in your community, understanding some interesting elements of your community, it might kind of frame your way of thinking. So any questions, you can certainly feel free to ask in the chat if I don't see your hand up, or if one of my colleague sees a hand up, certainly we can take questions after this. But as we talked about in the beginning of this, we're in the part of data collection and looking at what we call existing conditions and where are things now and what are we kind of seeing projected. And so looking at this is an essential component of any master plan. And this can strongly affect your vision. So Blandford's tax base, currently it's 82% residential, 13% from personal property, 4% commercial, and 1% industrial. Blandford's population is projected to grow only by 47 people between 2020 and 2040. Blandford's senior population, however, it grew 16% from 2010 to 2019. Most of Blandford's workers live in Russell, and most of Blandford's residents work in Westfield. 97% of Blandford's housing units are single unit detached homes. 48% of housing units are over 60 years old, so you have aging housing stock. Blandford's median household income in 2019 was $76,000. So just some interesting facts.
Alexis,
Yes.
we have somebody has raised their hand. A Roseberg, would you care to comment or ask a question at this time, or we can wait till the end? Okay, no problem.
All right. Thank you, though, Fiona, for catching that. So these are some examples of the information that as PVPC's work goes on moving forward, these are the sorts of things that they look at in framing the existing conditions for each of those elements that I had previously brought up that go into creating a master plan. Now, this was the fun part that, looking at all the numbers and facts about a community that is essential for planning, but sometimes you just learn about cool facts relating to a community. So I'll leave this slide up for you to review as we prepare to move forward into the discussion, the group discussion portion of the meeting. My favorite is that Blandford has the highest producing cheese value in the county, had in 1845. So that was an interesting fact. And the Glasgow Land Scottish Festival, I'll read it for those of you who are on the call. The Glasgow Land Scottish Festival started in Blandford in 1994 and was here for 5 years. The festival is in its 27th year and is the only Scottish festival in Massachusetts. I have fond memories of attending Scottish games myself as a child. So that's really cool that was in Blandford for that stretch. Blandford was originally granted to settlers of Suffields, Connecticut. Residents petitioned for the land and renamed it New Glasgow. And then the then governor later changed the name to Blandford in 1741 after the ship that brought him to America. And 2 more interesting facts for you to educate you on the history of your lovely town. Blandford provided men and material throughout the Revolutionary War. When the first alarm came from Lexington in 1775, 36 men from Blandford and Chester set out under command of Captain John Ferguson of Blandford. And then lastly, Charles Taggart of Blandford, born in 1843, served during the Civil War as a private in the 37th Massachusetts Infantry. At the Battle of Sailor's Creek in 1865, he captured a battle flag, and for this action, he was awarded a Medal of Honor. So you have some interesting history, and that in the historic resources portion of a master plan, the plan will address the remnants of some of these things in your community and how best to preserve them moving forward. So if you have any other interesting facts that you as a participant in the meeting tonight are aware of and you want to put them in the chat, please do, because we would love to hear. So with all of that information that you have taken in, I know it's a lot. The beginning part of the meeting is certainly quite a lot of information thrown at you, but now you get to take a break from listening to me and you get to do a SWOT exercise, as we abbreviate it, SWOT. S standing for strengths, W standing for weaknesses, O, opportunities, and T, threats. So this helps us determine what is working, what isn't working, what could be improved, and what can be left behind as Blandford looks forward to 2030. And it really tremendously helps in crafting a vision and goals, because there may be things that the numbers don't tell us, and we really need the perception of the residents to see what is working, what isn't. And also, kind of, sometimes it's interesting to see where there's a discrepancy between residents' perception versus say town staff's perception versus our analysis as kind of outsiders. So it is definitely a very helpful exercise to hear from you, the members, the residents. So I am going to, at this time, be breaking you into smaller groups where you will have a group facilitator leading a discussion, talking about each of these topics, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and threats. So there will be a moment, there'll be like a little lapse as you're being moved into a group. So please don't disconnect. And those of you who are on the calls, yes?
I just wanted to put the idea out there, if you wanted to have a larger discussion rather than doing small breakout groups, just because with less than 25 folks, so we might be able to open up to a larger discussion or break the groups out into 2. That was also suggested, but it's up to you.
Okay.
I would agree for whatever that's worth.
To do a larger discussion or a smaller discussion?
A larger discussion, since there isn't that many people, or maybe breaking it down to 2 groups.
Yeah, I'm still inclined to break it into groups, but not 5, just because I think sometimes it encourages people, you know, still maybe more inclined to speak up in a smaller group. So why don't we do 2 groups then? And in terms of our group leaders who were here to help us, I think if we go along with, if we take Ken, yeah, why don't we do Ken and Catherine, your 2 groups, which were group 3 and group 4, just for, because, you know, as the, our PVPC project leaders, that would probably make the most sense. So Ken and Shannon, if you're still on board for kind of leading those groups, and Catherine and Josh, if you're also still on board for leading that. Does that work for Ken and Catherine?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, excellent. So then you will be split into 2 groups. And if you just give me a moment, like I said, there will be a little lapse. So just don't disconnect, please. And just give me just a moment.
And John has pointed out that unfortunately the Historical Society has a Zoom that starts at 7, so he's going to have to.
Okay. All right.
And Linda Barnard also has to go to that meeting.
Okay. All right. So. Just a moment. I'm just making sure our PVPC representatives are spread out a bit. So just a moment, please.
Hey, Rick, welcome to the group. We're about to break out into 2 breakout sessions, just so you're aware.
Just have one more split to do. All right. So if anyone realizes on PVPC, if you realize as you're in your groups that I've made some error, I believe I have this all squared away, but if I have made some error, certainly feel free to message me and let me know. I've tried to distribute you reasonably as we had discussed, but otherwise we should be good to go. So I'm going to open up the rooms, and I'm going to admit.
Alexa,
Yes,
Sorry,
hello.
Jen Piper again. How does this work on the phone?
Okay, so on the phone, you'll still be put into a group. So once the groups start, each group has a group facilitator, and they'll kind of orient you. But so you'll still be able to hear and participate. You're just in kind of a smaller setting now, to encourage people to contribute and kind of hear different thoughts. Okay,
Very good.
thank you. All right. At this time, attendees were assigned to breakout groups. These smaller group conversations lasted approximately 45 minutes. Upon reconvening, group leaders shared takeaways from their discussions. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you. It sounds like there was some productive discussion going on, which is great. So I will share my screen again at this time, and just then we will have each of the breakout group leaders kind of share their takeaways. Oops. Okay, so as we go over the takeaways from each group, I'm just going to ask the discussion leaders to discuss what were the recurring topics of conversation, some key ideas or themes. What did your group want to see the most over the next 10 years? What did you learn? Any other final conclusions or last thoughts relating to each topic? And so I will ask at that time if the group leaders, actually, I guess it would be the ones who are typing on Padlet, if you would share your screen as you go over those takeaways, just so people can see the notes as you're talking through them, that would be great. So I will stop sharing my screen. And if you have any problems with that, let me know. But Ken's group, if you want to go first and just kind of give us the takeaways that you heard,
Great.
that would be great.
Okay. So I think what we can start with first is there are two items which present both an opportunity and a threat. I just wanted to do that before I didn't get to it. And that is the Turnpike access, which I think many people in this Zoom call, as well as people in the town, have an idea of what that can, how that can impact the community. And then solar farms, and the permits that have been issued for the solar farms in town. So I just wanted to get that out there. With regard to the town strengths, I mean, on the screen and for those on the phone call, residents look out for one another. Natural surroundings. It's a geographically unique area. The folks in my group, town meeting form of government, the last form of democracy, real grassroots. Wonderful library. It was helpful that the library director was there, and Mary and the board of directors was also there in our group. The wonderful group of older residents interested in preserving the history of the town, very passionate people. The financially stability of the town at the moment. Very good school system. The Blandford Country Club as a strength. The golf course and Blandford skiing when it was available prior to COVID. And one of the big points was a defined town center with walkable outdoor spaces. So at the town hall, post office, library, and possibly in the future, neighborhood playground, maybe. What or where are the town's weaknesses? So we had a few comments there. Police department. Inability to communicate universally. So the accessibility to news media, the town website, Reverse 911, the Council on Aging newsletter are a couple examples where some people are receiving that information and some are not. So identifying how you can do that. With that said, and you'll see in the next section, the broadband, I think, is a good way to maybe rectify some of those issues. Another town weakness, lack of decaying infrastructure. Town buildings, sewer systems, water systems, bridges and roads still need some additional resources. And so, that was something that was identified. And for this next point, there was a comparison made to your neighboring town, Otis, with regards to recreational opportunities provided. There are few, especially for multiple generations or middle generations, as that was provided. I think there was someone that posed the comment, is there a recreation department? And the comparison to Otis was Otis has a monthly movie night and has a gym that some of these activities could occur in. Someone and a few folks said lack of affordable housing, lack of senior housing. Two separate types of issues that I'm sure will be explored as we, put together the housing chapter, utilizing the data that we've collected and some of the items from this meeting as well as the survey. No public transportation opportunities, lack of usable space for potential development, and this was brought up, a lack of racial diversity, knowing that that can be a strength. What are the town's opportunities? Blandford ski and exploring other recreational opportunities there, possibly year-round, knowing that it may be a contentious discussion, especially for those that live along that road. That's a possibility and an opportunity for the town to look at. Broadband, thanks to the announcement this evening, that's something that's coming around. And after speaking to Peter yesterday, it sounds as if, by the end of the year, it will be the opportunity for folks in Blandford that 100% of the town can access that. Mary made sure to correct this one as I posted it, possibility of a west-east rail. And that's our legislative team here in Western Mass that have coined that phrase. And I think that's going to be an opportunity for the community. White Church uses a vital venue for cultural performance opportunities. There's already a lot of good programming that's happening there now. So continuing to use it and maybe expanding that. The Blandford Fairgrounds being a place where the town has some opportunity. The Niddle Conservation Area for other entertainment, outdoor recreational uses. Maybe the hillside could be used for an amphitheater type use. That's a possibility. During this time of COVID, taking advantage of people working remotely, especially with broadband access now being improved in town, that's an opportunity. And as I mentioned in the beginning, turnpike access and solar farms could be opportunities, but they also are threats. And I think that's a good segue to threats. Depending on which side of the conversation you're on with regards to turnpike access and solar development. Some other threats that were identified: financial instability of your recreational type uses in town, like the golf course, ski area, fairgrounds, and then someone also added the school system, where there's that possibility. The potential for reaching taxable levy limit if the town's total growth does not increase. So being able to, understand that balance that needs to happen. Very few families with young children coming in that may, be related to the school system financial instability. As I mentioned before, solar farms, a threat. Growing population, which will require additional town infrastructure and town services to accommodate that new growth. And an important one, and this was actually, I think, what the group may have been listening to as we joined back with the group, is that a majority of the town is owned by outside entities, like Hull and Springfield Waterworks. That land doesn't become available to be used. So, understanding that balance. And some additional comments that didn't necessarily have a place in the SWOT analysis. Understanding the Native American history in Blandford. There was a comment in the beginning with regards to some of the history being, put forth as mostly white. So understanding that there are services and Nicole from the library department suggested that the library plays an important role in providing those resources to explore even further and maybe, announce that there is, that these discussions continue to happen. And I think it's good for the town's growth. We were able to ask if you could change one thing, more young families in town. On the other side, keeping seniors in town. So obviously there's a strength in both of those. And then the last point was Shepherd Farm as a key transformation area. And a possibility was maybe senior housing. And then a comment from, I believe it was a conservation commissioner, explore legalities to that type of development if it's even possible, but that could be an area where the town can be transformed. And that's it. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Ken, for that takeaway. That was awesome. So in the interest of time for Catherine and Josh's group, if there's any kind of repeated themes, maybe you can share what was different or anything that your group had that kind of was opposite of the other group or new takeaways. So, thank you. I see you've shared your screen. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry it's so small. I don't know if anybody can even read it, but I will just pull out the things that were not in the other group. Certainly, the small town, very, very emphasized over and over the strength, the quality of life, opportunity to participate. Everybody can have their voices heard. Weaknesses was the technology gap that's already been talked about, and the ag entries at the fair have been dwindling. We lifted up in particular the white church. No, I guess you guys did too. Turnpike could be good, could be bad. The fair is an opportunity that could be enhanced. People talked about remembering when people would line up on the streets for the fair. The Blandford ski opportunity, the ski Blandford is an opportunity. It's shut down right now, but how can the town support the owners? Marijuana cultivation is an opportunity, as are solar farms, but also could be a threat. They just have to be very well managed. Right now, the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission are doing a great job. Talked about Springfield Water and Sewer owning all the land. I want to highlight the point made by Ross, and I apologize, I'm going to get your name wrong, but lived in the town for 45 years and talking about how now in her backyard, she sees this one right here where I'm putting the arrow, a great deal more wildlife, owls, bald eagles, pair of harriers, cougar tracks, neighbors saw wolves, seen moose. So this is a huge strength that somehow Blandford has become a place where wildlife is there more than there was 45 years ago. And how can make sure that the town supports that and maintains that? Because there must be, property owners must be managing their land well to have all these wild animals coming. And then we talked a lot about the opportunities with the town center, Watson Park, and the town common, how to unite those and make that a destination place and really cultivate the town common. And Josh, please add in if I left anything off.
Yeah, no, I can't really read what's there, but most of what folks said in the other group were in line with a lot of what we talked about, plus the additions that Catherine just added. But if any other member of the group, there was a key point that was discussed that wasn't shared in Catherine's report or in the other group, I'd encourage you to throw it out there.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And yes, as Josh said, if there's anything that you feel was missed, we definitely want to be able to see that in the chat so that we can kind of process that as the committee moves forward in establishing everything that they've heard tonight to begin crafting the vision, which really is an ongoing undertaking. So with that, we want to wrap up by just giving you kind of a heads up. Thank you for watching this recording of the Blandford Resilient Master Plan Visioning session. To stay up to date on the project, please visit the project website to learn more. blandfordmasterplan.pvpc.org. You can also participate in an online visioning survey through February 15th at tinyurl.com/BlandfordSurvey. And also keep an eye out on the town website for TikTok videos that will be posted relating to this master plan process. Any questions or comments can be directed to Catherine Rattay at crate@pvpc.org or Kenneth Comia at ccomia@pvpc.org. You can also contact Town Administrator Joshua Garcia at administrator@townofblandford.com.